In 1982, the United States had 301 refineries. By 2007, it dwindled to 149. We're losing on this. And we can do something about it. But even building new power plants, the environmental wackos are all going crazy over the thought of building nuclear plants. But you know what? Nuclear is the one energy producer that does not have any carbon dioxide emission. None. Not even one. And so, you know, we're just not doing things that are logical here. We're not doing things that are good for our country because we're listening to strange voices. And the strange voices are all about Saul Alinsky. You know, the people I met with today, I've already told you about, were Asian. Anyone ever read Sun Tzu? I mean, there's a lot of this kind of thinking, convoluted thinking, that's coming from this kind of manipulation. And we've got to know what these people are reading and how they're talking to us so we can know what their lingo is. Ethanol. So many people think that, well, you know, if we burn up our corn instead of feeding the hungry world, that maybe that would take care of the problems. No, I mean, look, it takes 3 gallons of gasoline to make 4 gallons of ethanol. And all the rest of these bullet points here. Ethanol is not the answer. It is totally a political solution to those who go to Iowa to campaign for president because it's the first primary. And it's a bot primary at that. It shouldn't even be that influential. But every candidate who goes up there makes all of these bad decisions. And that's why, by 2017, 15% of the American cars are supposed to be run on ethanol. I really hope that we can change that by that time. But it's going to take the will of the people out here who is informed, who says no. The theory of global warming, and folks, that's all it is, it's a theory. Many of you have now heard about ClimateGate. And I'm glad that people are understanding that this is all about politics. I happened to be in Kyoto, Japan in 1997 when the whole idea of the global warming theory and a United Nations treaty that would cap these greenhouse gas emissions was going down in flames because it was not built on truth. It's only a theory. Only Al Gore flew over to Kyoto and told the American delegation to be flexible. We all scratched our heads and said, what does that mean? Well, of course, it meant then to sell out the United States. And since 1997, they've continued to build their case. And even the third world countries in the very beginning totally opposed it because they knew that they weren't going to get anything out of it, but now are convinced that they can get something out of it, and it's the American dollar. It is a way of saying to 37 industrialized nations, you can no longer have an industrial output, or you're going to have to scale back on your industrial output, but there is no cap on the industrial growth in third world countries. It's a way of moving our industries to the third world.
Wealth transfer.
Wealth transfer, that's
Global
right.
socialism.
Redistribution of wealth, the communist ideal.
Global socialism.
Global socialism. Okay. Maurice Strong, mentioned here, says we may get to the point where the only way to save the world will be for industrial civilization to collapse. I mean, this man was the Earth Summit 1 and 2 chairman, the Secretary General of that United Nations meeting. And then you see here also he was an advisor to former UN Secretary General Cathie Adams after those 2 stints. The man above that, Timothy Worth, was Clinton's Undersecretary of State for Global Affairs. I love to call him Timothy Worthless, but I have to tell you I'm very proud of being thrown out of a meeting that I had with him one night when he found out that I was there to report on the mischief that he was saying to USA Radio. So he excused me from the meeting before he would say anything more. And that was in Johannesburg, South Africa. Carbon dioxide is not a pollutant. It is the air that you and I breathe out. Yes, it is emitted when fossil fuels are burned. But there have been times throughout history where carbon dioxide was much higher than it is today. Man is a very arrogant critter to think that he can produce enough carbon dioxide to warm the climate. It's totally false. It is a theory only. As a matter of fact, when out, or when fossil fuels are burned and emit carbon dioxide, then the plants take in the carbon dioxide and then they recycle it and exhale what? Oxygen. So, nobody's hurt. And how much of our air that we breathe is carbon dioxide anyway? Look at the first bullet point here. If 10,000 people represented a kind of gas, only 4 out of the 10,000 would represent carbon dioxide. It's not a major part of the air that we breathe. So this is totally a hoax, and it's all meant for this same Saul Alinsky agenda. Marxism. Marx and Hegel alike. And here are the scientists that I've studied for a number of years, and know many of them, who have made a very clear statement that not only is the earth not warmer than it has been in the historical past, but that right now we are as cool as we were before the modern industrial age. Man is not so powerful that he can warm the climate, period. The cap and tax legislation we must stop. At all costs, we must stop it. And I'm very grateful for our Attorney General, Greg Abbott, who is not only looking at the socialized medicine debacle, but also other things that we can and will take into a court of law, and trust that we will have outstanding justices at the helm so that we can overturn some of this and very unconstitutional ideals, especially now trying to pass this socialized medicine without even a vote by the U.S. House. It's just bizarre what they're doing. To show you just how the czars are not only unconstitutional, but how they could not be approved by the United States Senate because they're too extreme, you'll see here that Carol Browner, who's a global warming czar, was one of 14 leaders of the Socialist International's Commission for Sustainable World Society. They are extreme individuals that could not and should not ever be approved by the United States Senate if they were truly being brought in under constitutional means. They want open borders, and we know all about this. Starting with LBJ, that abolished the national immigration quotas. And ever since that happened, we have more and more and more people coming into our country. I'm not as personally concerned about those crossing our border who are coming here for work as I am those who are flying into our country with visas. The visas expired, and they stay here and they're building mosques in my neighborhood. I don't know about you, but I'm very concerned about that. As far as foreign policy, Barack Hussein Obama's foreign policy makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And you only have to remember in your mind's eye him bowing before the Saudi king, or, as I was speaking to some Asians today, him bowing before the Japanese president in a very embarrassing and shameful way that was indicating his subservience to a foreign potentate. The man is not serving under the United States Constitution. Instead, he is making up his own rules as he goes along and subjecting us to the lowest common denominator. You had
It was the emperor.
Emperor of Japan. Yeah. The stimulus failed. The one that is going on now is failing, as we all know, to create jobs. But even when FDR got his stimulus, here's what his own Treasury Secretary wrote in his private diary. We have tried spending money. We are spending more than we have ever spent before, and it does not work. We have never made good on our promises. I say after 8 years of this administration, we have just as much unemployment as when we started, and an enormous debt to boot. And, as I said, we could expect the first bailout. Nobody even knows what happened with the money after it was spent, except that Goldman Sachs ended up very wealthy, and certainly with the stimulus. And we know that right now, money is, from the stimulus, buying votes in order to socialize our medical system. So it's very, very tragic what is going on with that.